Welcome everybody. My name is, for those of you that don't know me, and I think everybody pretty much does, but my name is Sarah Pooley. I'm Account Director at MSO. I'm only going to spend sort of 25-30 minutes of your time just to go through user journey, and by that I mean touch points, every level of interaction between you and your customers. Now those customers actually might be online or they might be offline. So what I'm going to cover is all the touch points potentially, as many as I can tonight, without boring you stupid, but just to give you an idea of if you can map that journey, then you can actually make sure that you're not losing revenue by not understanding what your users are wanting from you, or whether it's a negative or whether it's a positive experience, because ultimately what you want to do is actually improve the customer experience. So the old methods of marketing actually no longer work. They don't apply because business owners are always used to say, what do I want people to find out about me? What do I want people to do? You can't do that anymore. The concept buyer persona marketing has been around for 2 to 3 years now, but it's really actually starting to gain momentum, and you're going to find this particular phraseology used quite a lot now in the next, I would say up to the next 5 years or so. And what we're actually trying to do is to break down users and to try and see if we can actually establish the profiles for certain buyers. Of all of you here, nobody will not be affected by this, so this applies to everybody. What you have in front of you, if you want to kind of wave around, this is just something for you to follow, to take away, and have a look and see where the interaction can be applied to your business or your association or your school. What we're trying to establish here is of the various points of interaction, and it can be online or it can be offline. You need to establish whether that experience is positive or whether it's negative. It's all about empathising with your customer as well. What do they want? What do they need? What do they feel? No longer is it saying, I want a product or service. The problem is that we've now got economies now that are so homogenised that you have to make a distinction and you have to set yourself apart from the competition. And interestingly, this stat from IBM research this year is saying that 88% of companies are saying that their growth depends on personalising the customer experience. They know they need to be doing that in order to win over and to beat the competition, but at the moment they're all afraid that they haven't got the resources or the expertise to do it. So if you want to stay ahead of the game, this is what you've got to start concentrating now on your customer experience. So of you in the room, how many do you know where you've potentially lost a customer from your website or from a newsletter or offline material, collateral, anything? Do you know where your customers are most active? Because a lot of people will say, actually, I don't. And also, one thing you need to establish again, as I keep saying, is the levels of interaction and where people are most prominent. Now, Google apply this and say that most people will research a company for a product or service before they even pick up the phone. Most of us will say, we're in stealth mode. We do our research. That particular company doesn't even know we exist at this point. So we are a potential source of revenue that no one knows exists. So again, we need to know who are your customers and work out exactly, and even on a spreadsheet, as Andrew said, when he's putting content up, it's just a matter of just mapping it all on a spreadsheet. This is no different. We're not talking rocket science here. You don't need flash apps, you don't need flash programs. Just list who your customers are, and I'm going to walk through and tell you exactly how we can do that. Quite relatively simple. Because ultimately we all want to exercise our own control. That's what we want. So we have the buying power. It's now customer centric, which is what I said at my last Tech Talks. You can no longer decide as a business owner or website owner, I want my people to read this because. It's now, our audience is now dictating to us the sort of content we need to be putting on our websites. So the real pain of a poor customer experience, on whatever medium that is, all the hard work you've put in, perhaps you've spent hours and hours and hours writing website content. If ultimately they come to your website and they don't engage, for whatever reason, the calls to action aren't clear enough, colours are wrong, font is too small. All of these sort of potential issues means that you lose trust. All your hard work is undone, as I said before. You might even not know that that poor customer experience is even going on, but potentially you've lost revenue as a result. This is key. The customer experience is going to be your key brand differentiator now. It's no longer going to be price and product, and we can see that it's already shifting in that direction, and it's only going to become more prominent as the years go forward with digital. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to give you a scenario, and this will actually, if this doesn't focus, you're thinking nothing else will. If 45% of consumers state a bad website is worse than nothing, you give them a bad website, they will go, they never come back. That's a huge, huge ratio of people that we're talking about. So you as a business owner, whether that's by week, month, year, here's an example. I want 11 customer wins over whatever period that may be. But you know what, my conversion rate is 50%. Put me in front of 2 clients, potential clients, and I know I will convert one of those. That's fine, that doesn't sound too bad. You've got a potential there reach of 22 customers. Let's take that 45% now and give you a reality check. You could have lost 18 customers here because you don't even know that they exist. They've come to your site, they don't like you, they've gone. They've not engaged with you, you have no idea that they were even there. You've actually, potentially you've reached 50, but your actual conversion rate is 27.5%. You can do the maths and work out what that now means in lost revenue. 50%, yeah, great, happy days, we can all deal with that. 27.5? Oh, I don't think so. So this really is something that you've got to see as a potential issue. Why is this happening? Can it be solved? How? Yes, it can. It is all about the different touch points, whether someone is having a negative experience, and can you sort it? And yes, you can sort it relatively easy. There was a survey during June and July of this year by eConsultancy. They asked 2,000 marketers, are you doing enough to understand user journeys? 17% of them said yes we are, the remainder said no we're not. And that's 2,000, and that's top-notch marketing departments. If they're not doing it, that's a bit scary. But by actually talking about it, and it gives you guys just something to think about, and this is maybe where we need to be thinking and pitching ourselves in the next 6 months, 12 months' time. Once you have established exactly where the negative is, you can put that right, you can then get trust back, you've been able to personalise the experience because you know what people want, they're telling you what they want and what they need, and you can adapt. And this is where digital is so key, because you can really relatively cheaply, you can adapt, you can evolve, and you can make sure that you give people exactly the right sort of experience that they want. So going back to this buyer persona and what you need to know, this is more than segmentation. It's not the old way of actually just trying to work out where are people, what industry are they in, and trying to find out niche markets and be able to then target to different groups. This is about people feeling something, and again, what I said in my tech talks, millennials, Generation Y, we've got a generation of people that are saying, I want to engage with you online, but I also want to feel something at the same time. Going back to what I said about Facebook and the corner shop mentality, Facebook is giving people what they want, the way they want to see it, and this is where it's so key. So you know what your buying cycle is, you know how people get from A, B, C to ultimately buy from you, your product or your service. Using interviews is a really good technique to understand how people feel when they engaged with you. And the general suggestion is try and see if you've got 8 to 12 of your current customers, and see if they're prepared to sit down and answer a few questions for you. What's just as key and just as important is to say, although if anyone that didn't decide to go with you as a business, ask them if they'd do an interview, because that actually might lead you to understand a lot more about what you're giving people. The fact that they didn't want to stay and they obviously didn't feel anything and they didn't get their trust, and that you're not delivering what you should be. So once you've got your buying cycle, you've asked them the right questions, you've got those comments and observations back, you've got real evidence now of where you need to apply that in the buying cycle. So if people are dropping out of your sales funnel, you can now establish where they're dropping out and do something about it. It then enables you to identify certain personas. So even if once you've done these interviews and you think, well, I've only got 2 types of customer, that's fine. You might only have 1. You don't really want to make it too broad where you find you've got 6, 7 or 8. But by doing so, you've then categorised that type of buyer, and it means you can then focus your messaging. And this is very important when you're writing content for your website, because you need to be writing content, as Andrew said, that is relevant, that is clear, that is concise, but it also resonates with the person that is landing on that page and reading it. And gone are the days where you did a fantastic looking homepage and then you put extra content relating to what you did as a website, as a company. What you're trying to do is say, that particular type of person is going to land on my page, and I want to make sure that they stay on the page, they find the relevant information, and then they engage with me and they want to take it further, and it's all about forging that relationship. So the key information that you need to get when you're applying these interviews, pretty standard. What triggered the buyer to search? What criteria were they looking for that they were then ticking the boxes to see if you were fitting in with that? What result did they want? Who else was considered? So that's quite key as to, well, yeah, we came to you, but we were actually considering other competitors as well. What was important to them? And how did they feel? And again, I'm going to keep coming back to is the emotional engagement that people have with you, because that is going to be your key differentiator as well. What is your USP? And what were the risks, obviously? So I'm going to cover online and offline. The marketing mix now, I'm loath to say digital marketing is what we're about at MSO. We're not. We actually take a real holistic approach, and Mark, you could vouch for that, I would say. That what we really want to do is to look at the whole offering and make sure that everything is consistent, everything looks good, and that could be an email alert, a website, registration email, but also the marketing collateral. What are you handing out to people? What are you sending to people? The brochures. And then how are you raising your profile on social media? So what I'm going to do is just going to really roughly run through the do's and don'ts for both. It's probably self-explanatory. We get a lot of people saying about what you shouldn't do and what you should do, but I'm just going to run through it very quickly. Deciding on the optimum number is key. Most people will say, how many emails should I be sending out a week? General consensus is no one will actually say what you should be doing. All they say is test and test and test again, because you can find that you alienate people by actually overexposure. Underexposure, yes, you could be losing an opportunity, but by the same token, if you don't send out enough, people could actually be forgetting about you, or they could lose trust, or they think, well, has that company gone under? Haven't heard from them for a while, I'll just ignore them. So you have to be very careful about how often you send out emailings. But again, it is all about actually testing the water and seeing what you get back and optimising your open rate. This, you might not be able to see it too clearly, but what this chart is actually saying is that most people are quite happy to receive an email at least weekly. They're quite happy, sort of weekly, yes. Anything less than weekly is a no-no. So just don't inundate and flood people's inboxes with unwanted email alerts. The worst perpetrator at the moment is Gap, and they are doing themselves a huge disservice at the moment because they are flooding people's inboxes every single day with the latest discount. And I was reading last week, or 2 really highly respected digital magazine articles that are going out. Gap was mentioned 3-4 times last week. So they're going to have to stop it, otherwise they're going to shoot themselves in the foot. There's no point saying every day, I'm going to offer you a discount, because all you're going to do is say, well, I'll wait until tomorrow, or I'll wait. And what is Gap then as a brand? They are really
every day is Black Friday day.
Yeah, it is, precisely. So what an absolute waste of time. So devise a structured plan as well when you're sending out email alerts. And as Andrew said, it's all about re-engineering that content, keep posting it out, and be careful about making sure that your messaging is not just a blanket email, it's a focused, targeted piece of content that the people that are opening that email actually want to open it, so that the next time they see you in their inbox, they say, right, okay, for example, MSO, they know what they're talking about, I'm going to read that email. I don't know about you guys, but I pretty much delete every email I get. I usually get about 50, 60 a day.
What, even the ones from me?
Yeah, well,
especially
ones.
Yeah, right. Delete.
Delete.
We're not allowed to send emails anymore.
Yeah, we're not allowed to send emails anymore. That's right. So this is one thing that we did for, well, it's ongoing now. We do this monthly for Shangri-La. It's a shameless plug now, I do apologise, but it's for 2 types of email alerts, and these are B2B. This is not B2C. What I like to, well, I keep saying to the girls there, is think about the CTAs. What are you asking people to do within that email? So convince, first of all, think about the first image. Does that actually hit a nerve? Do people look at that and say, wow, I want to read more? The tantalising title is key. On MailChimp, you only have around 50 characters to play with on your title. You can put more in, but you've got to think about exactly what device are you going to actually see that title. So if you restrict it to 50, you've got a better chance of an open rate. And MailChimp is actually, as Andrew said, it's a great free product, but it's also good for actually helping you decide what title you should put in your email. It will tell you, avoid discount, avoid get this, avoid free. And it will also then say to you, have you thought about this? Very not dissimilar to Google AdWords and a keywords tool, where it was actually saying these are all the alternatives that you can use. MailChimp does exactly the same, so you can adapt your title to ensure that you get the optimum number of opens, which ultimately that's what we're all trying to get. And also split test your titles. So a small portion of the number of of emails that go out, MailChimp will send out just a very small proportion of that figure, and the most opens, they then send that one title, the most popular, to everybody.
So you can put something like 5 titles in.
Yeah.
They'll do
Yeah.
they'll do a target test of
Yeah.
that, and then they'll say actually title number 4
That's
was
the
the
most
best.
popular.
They'll send the rest with title number 4.
Yeah. And that's one thing that we do at NSO. Also, if you can, when you're sending an email alert, offer some sort of reward, a discount, something that just dangles the carrot a little bit. There was some neuroscience research was saying that as humans, and they tested this on just one email alert that was sent out, the hormone oxytocin that is associated with happiness, feelings of pleasure, happiness, love, levels in the people that were opening that email that had a discount went up by 38%, which is crazy, but it obviously works. So I'm not going to go over too much about what Andrew was saying, but it is pretty much what turns people off is going to be a weak headline. It doesn't encourage you to want to read further. You switch off and you go away. I mean, we know that people, you've got that tiny, finite window of opportunity. Most people do actually leave a website after 8 seconds, but don't make it easier for them by putting in a weak headline. Don't put in too much of a sales pitch. Most people don't want to actually have that being thrown at them, because as this fact here says, 96% of website visitors, they're not looking to buy anything from the website. All they're doing is to understand whether you, as a company or a service, whether you know what you're doing. So they're just fact-finding at the moment. And I think this is quite key actually for poor loading time. As Andrew was saying, if images are too big and it takes a long time for a website page to load, there's a potential that you've lost 7% of conversion. So if you follow this and you look at your website and you think, actually that page is not loading quick enough, that's got serious repercussions for you as a business as well. So I'm going to run through some of the sites that I think are doing a really good job. MailChimp is superb, simply because all they say is send better email, which is ultimately all you want to do. Very little text, calls to action are here, quickly sign up, and they're actually saying to you, look, this is what you can do, these are the templates that you can build. It's all very simple to do. And then you've got the endorsement, 9 million people are using MailChimp already. What further obvious confirmation do you need that MailChimp is going to do the job for you? These guys, you probably don't know them that well, but their conversion rate is actually higher than Amazon because they've worked out how to actually get through the checkout process in as simple a way as possible. They've got, this is the UK website, but the American one, very not dissimilar. But again, it's the big image, feel the glow, they're trying to actually make the website experience something tangible that you can sense, that you can feel, and that is this is the way websites need to go. Because if you don't get that lock-in and you don't get that engagement, people are not going to come
So, for
back.
instance, they're selling outdoor clothing.
Yeah.
So they've got a picture of people outdoors near a snowy mountain. What they haven't got a picture of is someone in the house sitting next to the radiator because they're
Well, the
selling
next one
out.
is because it's Christmas decorations.
Yeah.
But it's the same. It's of the moment. This is what people are going to be looking for, and it just gives you a really nice warm feeling. It's just a really nice.
But that's actually 4 moves to go from I want to buy to I bought.
Yeah. Very slick. It's really slick. This one is another example. Now, the marketing department who were trying to sell Sims 3, they established that they thought that they could actually increase their conversion, that not enough people were actually clicking on buy. They had 4 calls to action on the Sims 3 website. They tried to whittle it down and said, we'll try 6 variations. So we're going to have 3, 4 CTAs, and we'll just see which one works the best. They've established that the best one is just to have 1 call to action on their homepage. That's all they want. So that's now why you've only got the buy it, now do it. Well, probably a couple of years ago, you could afford to showcase a few more CTAs on your site. Doesn't seem to be the way anymore, but we'll find out, won't we? I mean, this is the thing, we're constantly trying to keep up to date with everything. Go to our MSO website for see which is the best way to go at any given time. But this, they actually did manage to increase their conversion by a significant amount. So this is one of our favourite websites at the moment. It's Someways. Really what we wanted to do with Someways is to make sure that we had a beautiful first image, that we actually got across the message very quickly, very clearly, very simple navigation. But the best websites are the ones with banners with impact, and they tell the story straight away, so you don't have to think at all about what this site is trying to say. So when you are doing your website, think about the value proposition. How long have you been established? Have you got customer testimonials? What are people saying about your site? What makes you different from everybody else? And that is what is going to actually make sure that people then go forward and engage with you, because ultimately we want people to pick up the phone. And you want to have a convincing story. So it is about leading people through a process, and this is where it comes back to the user journey. You want to take people on a journey through their website. And video footage, again, as Andrew said, it's a really important part of media that you should really be thinking about having on your site. Can't actually tell you how important video is. It's not going anywhere, and it's here to stay, so you need to make sure that you start thinking about putting video footage on. Another touch point is a registration form. So Dropbox, Andrew said before, all they ask is the bare minimum. Don't ask people for their inside leg measurement. They'll go, because most of us will say, I don't really want to give you that information. Why should I? What are you going to give me in return? Dropbox has got it perfectly, because they only ask the very bare minimum. Think about plain speaking as well. There is a stat that's out at the moment that said if you keep your form as naturally, in a natural human, in English as possible, naturally speaking as possible, your chances of conversion are 25 to 40% greater than if you say, give me the date that you were born, give me the day on which you were born. Forget it, just say, when's your birthday? That's going to have more impact, and people are more likely to fill in the form and hit submit. And again, you can ask them to fill out more information about themselves when you've got their email address, when you can target them. The likes of LinkedIn will say, your profile is only 65% complete, can you come back and do a little more? Please do a little bit more, or do you want to upgrade? That's when they've got you, and then you're quite happy to do that in your own time. But because we're all time poor, we only want to fill out forms in that split second, and that's it. this is probably one of the most obvious slides that I've got here, but where many people still go wrong is that they don't have a site that is responsive, they haven't considered what it looks like on mobile, and you have to think about how the site looks on mobile first of all. If it takes a long time to load, 57% of people will actually just turn around and leave, and that's mobile, that's a mobile stat, that's not desktop. Far too many companies do tend to still look at the desktop experience and say that comes first and foremost. No, it doesn't. So I think the designers here will probably vouch for that. You have to start thinking about mobile first, and then you can expand out and see how great you can look for desktop. Because at the end of the day, on your mobile, if the content is too hard to digest, then you're not going to carry on. And the chances are you're not even going to you're not even going to go to the desktop. And this is where that, with the fact, if someone looks on their mobile at a website and doesn't like it, they are not going to go to your desktop version. They will just simply leave and go to your nearest competitor. So you've lost them straight away. And don't ask people on mobile to pinch, zoom, squint. They just want to do something in the now, which is where Amazon and PayPal have just pretty much nailed it, because it is just that one-click approach. So, top tips for mobile: use analytics to determine the journeys that people are taking on mobile, and Google Analytics will tell you how many people are on mobile, how many people actually accessed your site on tablet. You can actually combine both of them together. So the stats that you can glean off of Google are great. So you can then think, well, on that particular page, I had more mobile visitors. So then think about actually targeting your content and perhaps stripping out a lot of content, because on mobile, it's going to be harder for people to read. If you know for a fact that people are looking at your site via desktop on that specific page, you can afford to put more content on. And it comes down to test, trying and adapting, and watching the scrolling. Now, if anybody wants to ask questions about education and schools, Sarah's your girl. This is Morrison's, and it's an independent school in Scotland, just outside Edinburgh, isn't it?
It's very cold there.
It's very cold. It's the top, isn't it the top independent school in Scotland? Top one of the top
it's
six or
one,
something?
Yeah, it's one of the top ranking.
Sorry, education is not my speciality. Sarah is. But one thing that we were concentrating on was the mobile experience, because you've got parents on the go wanting to find information. They don't want to be looking at this fantastic desktop version because they're on their phone. They want to find information about their child as quickly as possible as they can. And we have to also consider that each household has 7.4 devices. That's not mobile, that's tablet, that's desktop, that's everything. So you can't afford to discount one in favour of the other either. So I'm going to just sort of have a little bit of a chat with you about the offline material, because that is just as important as your online offering. So none of us like irrelevant post, it all goes in the bin. A cluttered business card, if you can't pick out someone's name quickly, you're going to bin that business card as well. And also consider that your business card may go to somebody else, may go to a third party who hasn't even met you. So you haven't even had a chance to make an impression. So if your business card looks rubbish, the chances are they're not going to even engage with you either. So again, illegible letterheads, wait lists, insipid flyers. People just look at it and say, I don't like it, it's too flimsy, it doesn't do anything for me. And I've got everybody sitting on some way. Sorry Mark, I'm plugging you again. Is that
That's
all right?
all right, you just go ahead.
We spent a lot of time, seriously, didn't we, thinking about the weight of these and whether you'd like it and does it feel nice. And if people feel these, yeah, okay, well, I want to read more, then you've got people, you've already started, you've forged a relationship with people already. And again, coming back to the various touch points, all we're trying to establish here is a relationship with the potential customer, and making sure that that experience is seamless across everything. So that has to be important, that it's offline and it's online.
I think I'd echo that. I remember taking clients to a firm of lawyers, and what I'd seen on the website, the business cards and the brochures and everything, gave me one impression. I remember walking to reception with the client and thinking, ye gods, what the hell have I done here? And it was an embarrassment because it just didn't support anything. It's like going into a Dickensian firm, which is not what the website and the branding and all that was telling me.
I know who you're talking
Oh
about.
God, I'm talking about embarrassed.
So the rules for all marketing collateral. Clive, do you like your business cards up there?
I do.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm not going to invite people there to go, no.
But again, what we were trying to do is to say all the design elements have to be considered. So you have to think about the logo, the font size, the type of font. There is nothing worse than having something in your hand that is in Times New Roman. You go to the website and you see it in Arial. It just devalues you as a brand, and that is what you can't afford to do. So it's having that brand identity across the board and making sure you're consistent. So it does pay to spend a little bit more time thinking about the impression that you want to make, the language in which you want to speak, because you want people to say, I'm picking up this, and yeah, I really want to know more. I actually care about what I'm holding in my hand. Otherwise it will go in the bin, and we don't have time these days to actually give people a second chance. It just doesn't happen. So the perfect brochure is, yes, they are brilliant in terms of marketing material and for communication reasons and for forging that relationship, as I said, if they are well planned and they're structured. And what we did for some ways, these are some of the pages that we've got on the site. That's how it looks on mobile. That's one of our pages, or that's the About Us. No, it's not, it's Techno. What page is that, Mark?
I can't see from here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Other thing
I
that's just
think
that's
it is
about
it
us.
is about us.
That's
isn't it?
about us, yeah.
So
yeah.
what we were trying to do is to, when we were creating the Some Ways brochure, and you'll see, if I show some of these, what we were trying to do is to keep the imagery very consistent and just to give people the same feel across what they were then picking up in terms of the marketing material. Because if you're looking at this and you say, well, I didn't know who they were first of all, but I'm going to go to their website to make sure that that is evidence and it corroborates what I've just read here. So it is again about keeping that brand consistency going. And it just makes you look more slick, more professional, and that you've given it some thought. So what we want to do is really to just generate that positivity and get the trust working for you as a company. So this really is pretty obvious. If it's done badly, it's outdated. And as we said earlier, as you said, Adrian, there's no point having 5,000 brochures sitting around that you had printed 3 years ago if the content is actually out of date. Don't have a brochure where you're not actually telling somebody to do something. No point giving them a Bible if you don't want them to ultimately pick up the phone and speak to you. Be very careful about the language that you use, and if you're using copywriters, be careful about the tone of voice that they use on your offline material, and make sure that that's sympathetic to your online offering as well. And make sure your branding is consistent throughout. And don't put too many technical terms in a brochure unless the people reading it are technically minded. Because obviously they're going to read the first page, it means absolutely nothing to them, and you've lost that audience straight away. So I'm going to briefly go through to social media, and then I'll finish by showing you a video. Think about a consistent tone of voice on your social media, because social is all about actually raising your profile and increasing your exposure. There is a different train of thought that you should have a different personality on Facebook as opposed to Twitter, as opposed to LinkedIn. I don't actually agree with that. I think it's outdated. You have to be reasonably active on all of those mediums, but don't be on there purely for its own sake. So if you don't think it's relevant for your business, don't touch it, don't go anywhere near it, because you will actually do more damage and more harm. So if your audience is there, if there's a there, then talk to them and engage with them, but make sure you respond really quickly, because again, if you delay by more than six hours, I think it is, then people don't want to know you either, because they feel as if you're not interested in them as a potential customer. And even with your current customers, engage with them and talk to them, because then they feel loved as well, and that's important too. And one thing that we decided that we were going to, for the month of November, we were going to push out and see what sort of marketing project we would get the most engagement from. Did a search, thought of the obvious is Movember, let's jump on the hashtag, and then let's see if then we can, for MSO, every single day we're going to try a different image and a different icon, and see really, we're just testing the water, just to see how many shares we got, how many comments, and what M's were the most popular. Interestingly, we thought that the ones that were more creative were going to get the more engagement. They didn't. It was the those that actually, this one, and this one, obviously for the emotional attachment and the resonance that it had for the people that were looking at it. And more people were actually commenting. Remember, it's Sunday, I got way more shares than even Pudsey. So this one, we jumped on the John Lewis, on that particular day, we jumped on, it was the morning that John Lewis issued their advert, and we were scrambling for half an hour to actually come up with an image for the man on the moon. It was great, and it looked fantastic, but we didn't get any engagement from it, because it just looked as if we were being a bit too clever and a bit too cocky. Once you then actually start to say, we feel about certain things, then people say, okay, yeah, we like, that's good. So this is me showing my age. I'm so sorry, but this is how I actually describe to people how you should be talking to your audiences. So I can see soon. Twitter, be concise and to the point. So I always think of it as Han Solo. He was Mr. Pack a Punch, did man a few words, but he got his point across, and you didn't mess with him. Facebook, expand your story. Be enthusiastic, be keen, showcase, talk about things, and ask people to talk to you, with you, and share information that you think that they will find of interest. And it doesn't have to be industry-led news. If you know that you've got some of your customers are into football, then talk about what happened at the weekend. It's all about people actually coming back to you and saying, these guys care about me, and that is really important. Likewise, LinkedIn. LinkedIn it can offer 3 times more ROI than Facebook and Twitter put together. So if you are going to seriously think about actually getting some revenue in, LinkedIn is going to be the best course of action for you. But you have to be seen as the key influencer, so be the advocate for your chosen subject, and people will then come to you and engage with you. So my takeaways. Use the map that you've got. Once you know all your touch points, once you know where all those different parts, there will be interaction, whether it's on a website, an email alert, even picking up the phone, even to the point of people actually filling out a registration form. Once you've decided where you're actually doing really well, that's great, but you need to concentrate on where perhaps you could be improving. What you're trying to achieve is a seamless experience of people online and offline, so across the board. Also remember that we're brand agnostic, so we don't actually particularly care about the brand. All we're bothered about is whether I'm getting what I want. And use data very, very wisely. I'm not going to say any more about this video because this is me finished now, but when you see the video you will completely get what I mean.
Good old YouTube.
I know.
Peter, come take a look at this.
Look at this.
What's this? The numbers, they keep getting bigger and bigger.
Clicks are off the charts.
Yeah.
Yoshi, it's Walter. We're back.
I need more trees, I'll get you more trees.
Hey, take a look at Woodpole.
Everything about football right now.
He really loves that thing.
I don't need to say any more, do I really? That is pretty much it in a
What the
nutshell.
next video is.
Let's not to ask.
Sarah's evening pastime.
Sorry. Okay, so really what I'm trying to say is answer the question before it's asked, and in order to do that then you will actually gain a competitive advantage. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Sarah.